I still remember the exact second my marriage cracked open. It was the soft ping of his phone on the kitchen counter, right beside the sizzling pan of garlic and onions he was stirring for dinner. The sound was so ordinary, yet it sliced straight through me like a cold knife. He didn't even look up from the stove. Just a work thing. "Babe," he said, waving the wooden spoon, the steam curling up around his face, but the screen lit up again, bright and insistent, and the preview sat there plain as day. "I miss you." 3 little words from a woman named Claire. My husband was cooking when his coworker texted him, "I miss you." I replied for him, "Come over." I don't know what possessed me. My thumb moved before my mind caught up. Maybe it was the way he'd been humming a little too cheerfully all evening. Or the faint trace of perfume I'd noticed on his jacket 2 nights ago, something floral and young that wasn't mine. Maybe I was just tired of pretending I didn't see the cracks. Whatever it was, I hit send, set the phone face down, and walked back to the living room like nothing had happened. He never even noticed I'd touched it. That was the moment everything changed, though I wouldn't fully understand it until much later. Before that night, life had felt safe, comfortable, the kind of comfort you don't question until it's gone. Mark and I had been married 19 years. We met when we were both 25, broke, and full of big dreams. He was the quiet engineer who could fix anything with his hands. I was the loud nurse who could calm anyone with my voice. We balanced each other. People used to say that, "You two just fit." My mother would smile, squeezing my hand at Sunday dinners. Our house smelled like lemon polish and whatever was simmering on the stove. The kids, Lord. The kids were finally grown. Our daughter, Jasmine, was 22, finishing her teaching degree upstate. Our son, Malik, 20, had just moved into his own apartment downtown with 2 roommates and a cat he wasn't supposed to have. The nest was empty, and for the first time in 2 decades, Mark and I had quiet evenings again. We'd sit on the porch swing with mugs of chamomile, listening to the crickets, talking about taking a cruise for our 20th anniversary. Simple things, good things. He still kissed me every morning before work, right on the temple, the same spot for 19 years. He still left little notes in my lunch bag when I worked the night shift. Save lives. Then come home to me. I kept every single one in a shoebox under our bed. Lately, though, the notes had stopped. He blamed overtime. New project. Big promotion on the horizon. I believed him because I wanted to. Because believing is easier than digging. He'd always worked with Claire Pretty. 32. Newly divorced Claire with the big laugh and the tight blouses. She was on his team, the lead designer. I'd met her twice at company picnics. She hugged too long, called him Marky, and once told me I was so lucky while staring at him like he was dessert. I laughed it off. Insecure wives see threats everywhere, I told myself. I was 44, not dead, but the signs were piling up like dirty dishes you keep meaning to wash. He started showering the minute he walked in the door instead of kissing me hello. His phone stayed face down now, always. He'd smile at texts in the dark while I pretended to be asleep, and the perfume, that sweet, cloying jasmine scent, kept showing up on his collar, faint but unmistakable. I told myself it was nothing. Men go through phases, midlife nonsense. He'd snap out of it. But that night, when the phone lit up with "I miss you," something inside me snapped wide open. Not rage, not yet. Just a cold, clear certainty. I wanted to see her face when she walked through my door, thinking she was wanted, so I texted back, "Come over, door's open, can't wait to see you." I even added the winky face, the one he uses when he's flirting with me. Then I waited. He kept cooking, humming under his breath, stirring the sauce like any other Thursday. The kitchen smelled of tomatoes and basil and the lie we'd both been living. 23 minutes later, the doorbell rang. He frowned, wiping his hands on the dish towel. Who could that be? I stood up slowly, smoothing my apron, my heart beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Let me get it, honey," I said, my voice steady as Sunday morning. "You finished dinner?" I walked to the front door, took a breath that tasted like garlic and betrayal, and opened it wide. There she stood, Claire, in a little red dress and nervous hope in her eyes. "Hi, Mark said to come over," she said, clutching her purse like a shield. I smiled, the sweetest smile I'd ever given anyone in my life. "Oh, he did he?" I stepped aside. "Well, come right on in, sweetheart. Dinner's almost ready." Her face went the color of the pasta sauce, and that, my loves, was only the beginning. Mark's spoon clattered against the pot when he heard her voice. "Claire." He stepped into the hallway, barefoot, apron still tied around his waist like some innocent husband caught in the middle of a sitcom. His eyes went from her to me and back again, wide and confused. The way a deer looks right before the headlights hit. I closed the door softly behind her. Click, no escape now. Surprise, I said, calm as fresh linen. Claire said you invited her over. I didn't want to be rude. Claire's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked like a goldfish someone had yanked out of its bowl. I must have misunderstood the text, she stammered, clutching that little red purse tighter. I'll just go. No. No, I interrupted, gentle, almost kind. You're already here. Shoes off, please. We don't wear them in the house. Mark finally found his voice. Babe, what is this? I turned to him, slow, deliberate. You tell me, Mark. Your phone buzzed. I saw Claire missed you. I thought it'd be nice if she came for dinner. Family style. I smiled again, but it didn't reach my eyes. I know it didn't, because I felt the ice in them. He reached for his phone on the counter. Frantic now, thumbing through the messages. I watched his face drain of color when he saw what I'd sent from his side of the bed. Claire started backing toward the door, heel catching on the rug. This was a mistake. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Henderson, it's Denise, I corrected softly. You've been texting my husband for months. You can use my name. The air in the hallway was thick enough to choke on garlic, onions, and pure shame. Mark's voice cracked. Denise, let her leave. We'll talk about this later. No, I said, still calm, still quiet. We're talking about it now. Claire, honey, come sit. The sauce is going to burn. I walked past both of them into the kitchen like I was hosting Sunday brunch instead of the funeral of my marriage. I turned the burner down, stirred the pot with the same wooden spoon he'd been using 5 minutes ago. The sauce bubbled innocently. They followed me like children called to the principal's office. Claire hovered by the island. Looking small despite the red dress, Mark stood between us. Hands raised, like he could still fix this with an explanation. It's not what you think, he started. I laughed then just once, soft. Mark, I've been a nurse for 23 years. I know exactly what I miss you means when it comes at 6:47 p.m. on a Thursday. From a woman who isn't your wife. Claire's eyes filled. It was stupid. It was just flirting. Nothing happened. Stop, I said. Not loud, just firm. Don't lie to my face, in my kitchen. I deserve better than that. Mark rubbed a hand over his head, the way he does when he's cornered. Denise, I messed up. I know, but it was just texts, just attention. I was stupid. I was flattered for months. I cut in. 4 months of I miss you, thinking about you, heart emojis at midnight while I'm asleep next to you. You deleted the threads, but not fast enough. I saw enough. Claire started crying quietly, tears smudging the mascara she'd put on for him. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm getting divorced. I was lonely. It didn't mean anything. I looked at her then really looked. She was young, pretty, broken in her own way, and I felt something close to pity, but it was drowned out by the roar in my chest. You're lonely, I asked. Try being married to a man who suddenly can't look you in the eye. Try smelling another woman on the shirts you wash. Try pretending everything's fine because your kids call and ask if daddy's happy at his new job. My voice shook just once, then steadied. You don't get to be the victim here, Claire. Mark stepped toward me. Baby, please don't. I held up the spoon like a stop sign. Red sauce dripped onto the tile. Don't you dare baby me right now. Silence fell heavy, broken only by the tick of the kitchen clock and Claire's soft sniffing. I took a breath that tasted like copper. Claire, you can go. This is between me and my husband now. She didn't wait. She fled, heels clicking fast. Door slamming behind her like a gunshot. Then it was just us, Mark and I. Standing in the kitchen, we painted butter yellow the summer Jasmine started kindergarten. The kitchen where we danced 2 old Al Green songs at 2 a.m. when the kids were babies. Where I cried into his chest when my daddy died. Where he held me the night we found out Malik had asthma and might not play football anymore. All of it is stained now. He tried again, voice small. Denise, I never slept with her. I swear on everything. I set the spoon down carefully. You think that makes it better? That you only gave her pieces of you instead of your body. You gave her the parts I thought were still mine. Good morning. The sweet dreams. The I'm thinking about you that used to be for me. His eyes filled. I got scared. The kids are gone. We're older. And she made me feel young. I finished for him. I know. I see 32 every day at the hospital. Mark. Tight skin. No stretch marks. No worry lines from raising your babies and paying your bills. I know exactly what she made you feel. I turned off the stove. Dinner was ruined anyway. I'm going to my sister's, I said. You can sleep in the guest room tonight, or on the couch, or in your car for all I care, but you're not sleeping next to me. Denise, I need space to breathe without smelling her on you. I walked past him, up the stairs, and started packing a small bag with the kind of calm that comes right before a storm breaks wide open. He didn't follow me. He just stood in the kitchen and cried like the man I married 19 years ago, the one who promised me forever. But forever, I was learning, has an expiration date when you stop watering it. I stayed at my sister, Valerie's house, for 9 days. 9 days of sleeping in her guest room that still smelled faintly of the lavender sachets our mama used to make. 9 days of waking up to the sound of her wind chimes on the porch and the ache in my chest that never quite settled. I didn't cry much after the first night. Tears felt too small for what was broken. Valerie didn't ask a lot of questions. She just made coffee strong enough to wake the dead, set a plate of scrambled eggs in front of me every morning, and sat across the table like a quiet sentinel. On the third day, she said, "You don't have to decide anything yet, Denise. Just breathe." That was all. That was enough. Mark called every day, sometimes twice, left voicemails I didn't listen to until the 7th day. "Denise, I fired Claire." "Well, I asked for a transfer. She's moving to the Denver office next month. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I needed you to know I cut it off completely. I'm seeing a counselor. I miss you. The house is too quiet. Please come home." I saved the voicemail. I played it twice, then deleted it. Jasmine called on day 5, voice tight with worry. "Mom, what's going on? Dad says you're staying with Aunt Val. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week." I closed my eyes and leaned against Valerie's kitchen wall, the phone hot against my ear. "Your daddy and I are working through something. Baby, grown-up stuff. Is it another woman?" She flat out. My daughter never minced words. I hesitated just long enough. "Oh, Mom." Her voice cracked. "I'm coming home this weekend." "No," I said quickly. "Finish your exams. I'm okay, I promise." Malik texted, instead of calling. That's how he handles hard things. "Mom, you good? Dad's acting weird." "Like real weird," I replied with a heart emoji and nothing else. On the 9th morning, Valerie poured me coffee and said, "You ready to go back and face it, or you want to stay another week?" I looked out her window at the maple tree turning gold. "I'm ready," I said, "but not to forgive, just to figure out what comes next." When I pulled into our driveway that afternoon, Mark's truck was gone. The house looked exactly the same, porch, swing still swaying slightly in the breeze, but it felt different, like someone had turned the volume down on my life. He'd left a note on the kitchen counter in his neat engineer handwriting. "Gone to give you space. Groceries in the fridge. I love you. Always will." Me crumpled it, then smoothed it out again and slipped it into my pocket. That night I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through his phone records online, not because I wanted to torture myself, but because I needed the whole truth, not just the pieces he'd decided to give me. The texts started innocently enough. "Last spring, Claire. Great presentation today. Marky. Mark. Thanks. Couldn't have done it without your slides. Claire. Drinks with the team after work. Mark. Can't tonight. Dinner with my wife." But by June, the can't tonight stopped appearing. Late night messages, voice notes I couldn't bring myself to play. A string of heart emojis that made my stomach turn. Then, 3 weeks ago, "Claire. Sometimes I wish I'd met you before she did." Mark. "Don't say that, Claire." "Why not?" "It's true, Mark, because I love my wife, Claire." "Then why are you still texting me at 1 a.m.? He never answered that one. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun came up, reading every word until my eyes burned. When I was done, I closed the laptop, walked to our bedroom, and started separating clothes into 2 piles, his and mine. Not divorce yet, just space, real space. He came home around noon the next day, looking like he'd slept in his truck, eyes red, shirt wrinkled. When he saw me folding my sweaters into a suitcase, his knees almost gave out. "Denise, please, talk to me." I kept folding. "I read everything, Mark." He didn't ask how, just sank onto the edge of the bed like an old man. "I'm not proud of who I became," he said quietly. "I got lost in feeling wanted again, like I mattered to someone who didn't need me to pay bills or fix the garbage disposal. It was selfish. It was weak." I zipped the suitcase. "You didn't just flirt with her. You let her inside our marriage. You let her matter more than me on the nights you chose her words over mine." "I know." His voice broke. "I know." I looked at him, then really looked. The gray at his temples I used to tease him about. The worry lines I'd kissed 1,000 times. The hands that held me through to miscarriages before the kids finally came. He was still the man I loved. And that made it hurt worse. I'm staying at Valerie's a little longer, I said. I need to figure out if there's anything left to save. And you need to figure out if you want to be the man I married. Or the man who needed a 32-year-old to remind him he's still alive. He started crying, then quiet, shoulder-shaking sobs. I'd only seen him cry like that twice before, when his daddy died, and the night Jasmine was born. I walked over, sat beside him, and let him rest his head on my shoulder for 1 minute. Just one. Then I stood up. I'll call you when I'm ready to talk, I said, not before. I left him sitting on our bed, surrounded by folded clothes and 19 years of memories, and I didn't look back. The next few weeks moved slow and heavy, like walking through water. I took a leave of absence from the hospital, 23 years of holding other people's pain, and suddenly I couldn't hold my own. Valerie didn't fuss. She just cleared out her sewing room and told me it was mine for as long as I needed. I slept on the daybed under a quilt our grandmother pieced together the year I got married. Some nights I traced the stitches with my finger and wondered if love could be mended the same way. One careful square at a time, closing parenthesis. Mark showed up every Sunday after church. Same as always, with a bouquet of grocery store roses and that hangdog look. He never came inside, just stood on the porch, hat in his hands, waiting for me to decide if I'd open the door. The first Sunday, I didn't. The second Sunday, I opened it, but I didn't let him in. The third Sunday, I let him sit on the swing with me. 6 feet of space between us like we were teenagers again. He brought proof of printed email from HR. Claire had accepted the transfer to Denver. Effective immediately. A receipt from a counselor he'd been seeing twice a week. A new phone with a new number. He handed me the old one in a plastic bag, like evidence. I deleted everything, he said. Social media, cloud backups, all of it. You can have the passwords to whatever you want. I took the bag, set it on the porch rail, and didn't say thank you. Silence stretched between us, thick as August heat. Finally he spoke, voice rough. I told the kids. My heart stopped. You told them what, exactly? That I disrespected their mother. That I let another woman make me feel things I should have been feeling for you. That I'm trying to earn my way back into this family, if you'll let me. I stared at the roses wilting in his hand. And what did they say? Jasmine cried. Malik looked at me like I was a stranger. Then he said, fix it, Dad, or don't come around us pretending you're still the man who taught me how to be one. His voice cracked on the last word. Felt that crack in my own chest. We sat there until the sun dipped low and the porch light flickered on. I still didn't invite him inside, at work. Word travels faster than I for fluid. One of the younger nurses, Tasha, pulled me aside in the break room, my first day back. Miss Denise, everybody knows about Mark and that girl from his job. They're saying she got shipped off to Denver like trash. She lowered her voice. Some of the men are calling you a legend for how you handled it. I poured coffee with steady hands. I didn't do it to be a legend, baby. I did it to survive. But the story grew legs anyway. Claire's best friend at the company, someone named Lauren, posted a long, tearful thing on Facebook about homewreckers who think marriage is a game and tagged half the engineering department. Someone screenshot it and sent it to Valerie, who showed me with raised eyebrows. By the end of the week, people I hadn't spoken to since high school were texting me Bible verses and offering to pray over my house. I let them pray. Lord knows I needed it. Then came the day I'll never forget as long as I live. I was at the grocery store, reaching for the same brand of coffee Mark and I had bought for 15 years. When I heard her voice behind me, double quotes Mrs. Henderson, I turned. Claire. She looked different out of the red dress, smaller somehow, hair in a messy bun, no makeup, eyes puffy like she'd been crying in the cereal aisle. She was holding a basket with milk, eggs, and a single frozen dinner. I waited, said nothing. She swallowed. I start in Denver next Monday. I wanted to say I'm sorry. To your face. Not because HR made me, but because I see what I did now. I told myself it was harmless. That he was unhappy. That I was helping him feel seen. But I was tearing your family apart for my own ego. Her voice wobbled. You didn't deserve that. Neither did your kids. People were starting to stare. I could feel their eyes like heat on my skin. I looked at her for a long moment. Really looked. You're young, I said quietly. You still think love is something you chase when you're lonely. One day you'll learn it's something you protect when it's standing right in front of you. Tired and gray-haired and still choosing you every morning. Her chin trembled. Go to Denver, I told her. Start over. And the next time a married man tells you his wife doesn't understand him, you walk away, because that's not your story to fix. I put the coffee in my cart and walked off without another word. When I got to the car, my hands shook so hard I dropped the keys twice, not from anger, from relief, from finally saying out loud what I'd been carrying. That night, Mark was waiting on Valerie's porch again. This time I opened the door before he knocked. "I saw Claire today," I said. He went still. She apologized. I listened, and I let her go. He searched my face. "Does that mean?" "It means I'm ready to talk. Not forgiven yet, just talk." He nodded like a man who'd been holding his breath for weeks. We sat on the swing again. This time I didn't leave 6 feet between us. We started meeting on Tuesday nights at the little coffee shop on Maple and 12th, the one with the cracked vinyl booths and the old jazz records playing soft in the background. Neutral ground. No memories of babies or mortgage papers or the way he used to pull me close while the kettle boiled. The first night we sat across from each other like strangers on a blind date. He ordered my tea the way I've taken it for 20 years, to sugars, splash of milk, and that small thing almost undid me. The counselor had given us rules: no blaming, no defending, only I feel statements. It sounded like kindergarten until you tried it with the person you once swore to love until death. I started. "I feel invisible when you look for light in someone else's eyes instead of mine." He cried into his napkin. He started. "I feel ashamed every time I remember how easy it was to lie by omission. I feel terrified that I damaged the only thing that ever made me a better man. You believe in me." I cried into mine. We did that for weeks. Sometimes we only lasted 20 minutes before one of us had to leave and breathe outside, where the air didn't hurt so much. Sometimes we closed the place down, holding hands across the table like teenagers who'd just discovered the miracle of touching. One night in early November, rain tapping the window like impatient fingers, I asked the question I'd been afraid to voice. "Do you still love me, Mark? Or do you just love who we used to be?" He didn't answer right away. That scared me more than a quick yes would have. He looked at me, or really looked, until I felt seen in a way I hadn't in years. I loved the woman who opened that door in her apron and faced down my stupidity with more grace than I ever deserved. I love the woman who raised our children to be brave and kind while I was busy being weak. I love the woman sitting here right now with tired eyes and a broken heart, still willing to ask me hard questions. I never stopped loving you, Denise. I just forgot how to show it. I believed him. Not because it fixed everything, but because I heard the truth and the cracks of his voice. We didn't rush home that night. We walked in the rain instead, sharing one umbrella like we did when we were 25 and too poor to care about getting wet. Thanksgiving was coming. The kids were coming home. Jasmine texted both of us in a group chat. "Are we doing Thanksgiving at the house? Or do I need to pick a side?" I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Your daddy and I are trying. Come to the house. We'll cook together like always." Malik replied with a single thumbs up and a heart. That was enough. The day before Thanksgiving, Mark showed up at Valerie's with grocery bags and a look that asked permission. I nodded. He loaded my car. We drove home in separate vehicles, but we parked side by side in our driveway for the first time in months. We cooked all afternoon: collards, simmering with smoked turkey, cornbread from scratch, the way my mama taught me, macaroni and cheese, with the extra sharp cheddar the kids fight over. He peeled potatoes while I seasoned the greens, moving around each other like a slow, careful dance. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. The quiet wasn't angry anymore. When Jasmine walked in first, she stopped in the doorway, backpack sliding off her shoulder. She looked from me to her daddy, and back again, eyes filling fast. "Hi, baby," I said, wiping my hands on the apron I hadn't worn since the night everything broke. She ran to me first, arms tight around my neck like she was 10 again. Then she crossed the kitchen and hugged her father so hard his knees buckled a little. Malik came in quieter, eyes taking everything in. He hugged me long, then looked at Mark. "You cooked the greens right, old man?" he asked. Mark laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. "Learning from the best, son." Dinner was loud and messy and perfect. The kids told stories from school. Malik's cat had apparently destroyed an entire couch. Jasmine had a new boyfriend she wasn't ready to talk about yet. We passed plates, argued over who made better cornbread, me. And nobody mentioned Claire once. After pie, the kids went to the living room to watch the game. Mark and I stood at the sink washing dishes side by side, the way we had 1,000 times before. He bumped my hip gently with his, "Thank you," he whispered. I bumped him back. We're not fixed, I said softly. I know, but we're healing. One plate at a time. He nodded, eyes shining. Later, when the kids were asleep in their old rooms, I found him on the porch swing wrapped in the blanket we bought on our honeymoon. I sat beside him, not touching yet, but close enough to feel his warmth. The stars were bright and sharp, the way they only get in late fall. I'm not ready to share our bed again, I said quietly. I know, the guest room's fine, for as long as you need. I reached over and took his hand. He let out a breath like he'd been holding it since summer. We swung gently, creaking in the dark, two people learning how to hold on again. Christmas came quiet that year, no big parties, no matching pajamas. Just the four of us and the soft glow of the tree we put up together the first Sunday in December. Jasmine and Malik insisted on helping string the lights. Malik held the ladder while Mark climbed up to the high branches like he used to when the kids were little and believed their daddy could reach the sky. Jasmine handed me ornaments one by one, the fragile glass ones we'd collected every year of our marriage. When she pulled out the Our First Christmas Together 2005 ornament, she looked at me with a question in her eyes. I nodded. She hung it front and center, right where it always went. We didn't pretend nothing had happened. We just chose, for those few hours, to remember what was good. January brought cold rain and the real work. Mark moved back into our bedroom, but we kept separate sides of the bed like an invisible line drawn down the middle. Some nights he reached for me in the dark, and I let him hold my hand. Some nights I turned away and he didn't push. We were learning the new geography of us where the bruises still were, where it was safe to touch. The counselor told us healing isn't linear. She was right. There were days I woke up angry all over again. Days I walked past his cologne in the bathroom and felt sick. There were nights he cried in the shower because he heard me crying in the bedroom and didn't know how to fix it anymore. But there were also mornings he made coffee exactly the way I like it and set it on my nightstand without a word. In the mornings I left a note in his lunch that just said I'm still here. Small stitches, slow stitches. In February, the company had their annual awards banquet. Mark had always gone alone the last few years. It's boring, babe. Just a bunch of speeches. This time he asked me 2 weeks ahead, voice careful. I don't have to go, or I can go and come home early, whatever you want. I thought about it for 3 days. Thought about sitting home, imagining who he was talking to, who was watching him across the room. Then I went to the back of my closet and pulled out the navy dress I hadn't worn since before COVID. The one that still fit, the one he used to say made my eyes look like midnight. I'll go with you, I said. He looked like he might cry right there in the kitchen. The banquet was exactly as dull as he'd always said. Rubber chicken, 2 long speeches, cheap wine, but people noticed us. Heads turned when we walked in holding hands. I saw the whispers, felt the eyes, some curious, some pitying, some respectful. His boss's wife, Marlene, hugged me tight and said loud enough for the table to hear, "Girl, you look like royalty tonight. Don't let anybody tell you differently." I laughed into her shoulder and felt something loosen in my chest. Near the end of the night, the MC called Mark up for an awards, some engineering thing about innovation and leadership. He looked surprised. He hadn't told me he was nominated. When he accepted the little glass trophy, he didn't talk about projects or deadlines. He looked straight at me in the crowd and said into the microphone, "None of this means anything without the woman who taught me what real leadership looks like, standing tall when your world falls apart, choosing grace when you have every right to walk away. Denise, this belongs to you more than me." The room went quiet, then erupted. I don't remember standing, but suddenly I was, tears running, clapping like a fool while my husband looked at me like I was the only person in the world. On the way home in the car, windows fogged from our breathing, he reached over and took my hand. "Thank you for coming tonight," he said. "Thank you for seeing me," I answered. That night, for the first time since summer, I let him hold me all the way. No invisible line, just his arms around me, my head on his chest, listening to his heart beat the same rhythm it always had. I fell asleep crying, but they were different tears, relief, maybe, or the first taste of hope. Spring came early that year. The dogwoods bloomed pink and white along our street like someone had scattered forgiveness from the sky. One Saturday in April, Mark woke me with coffee and a soft kiss on my forehead. "Get dressed," he whispered. "I want to take you somewhere." We drove an hour outside the city to a little bed and breakfast we'd stayed at the weekend we got engaged. The same one with the wraparound porch and the rocking chairs that creaked just right. The owner, Miss Lorraine, Still remembered us, hugged us both, like we were her own children coming home. That night, after dinner, Mark took me walking down by the creek where the fireflies were just starting to blink on and off. He stopped under the same willow tree where he'd asked me to marry him 20 years ago. Then he got down on one knee. Old knees creaked louder than the rocking chairs. "Denise Marie Henderson," he said, voice thick, pulling a little velvet box from his pocket. "I've worn your ring every day since you gave me another chance. But I need to ask you again properly. Will you keep choosing me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life earning the honor of being your husband?" Inside the box was my original wedding band, cleaned and shining, and beside it, a new one, thinner gold, woven with white gold, like two lives braided back together. I cried so hard I could barely get the word out. Yes. We renewed our vows the next morning in Miss Lorraine's garden, just us and her ancient beagle as witness. I wore a simple yellow dress. He wore the same suit from our first wedding, a little snug now, but still fitting where it mattered. When we got home, the kids were waiting in the driveway with balloons and a cake that said "Still and Always." Jasmine had tears running down her face. Malik just hugged his daddy so tight I heard Mark's breath whoosh out. That night, all four of us sat on the porch swing, too crowded, laughing, passing slices of cake on paper plates. The air smelled like honeysuckle and second chances. Healing doesn't mean the scar disappears. It just means the wound closes enough that you can carry it without bleeding all over everything you love. We still go to counseling. Some weeks are harder than others. Some nights I still wake up and reach across the bed just to make sure he's there. But most mornings now, I wake up to coffee on my nightstand and his hand in mine. Love isn't the feeling that never falters. It's the choice you keep making even after you've seen the worst of someone and they've seen the worst of you. And you both decide the story isn't over. That's what I learned. That's what I'm still learning, so here I am, 20 years in, still waking up next to the same man, still choosing him, still being chosen. Some of you will say I forgave too soon. Some will say I should have walked and never looked back. I understand both sides. I lived with both sides in my head for months. But love, real love, isn't always the door you slam. Sometimes it's the door you leave cracked open, even when your hand is shaking and your heart is bruised, because you remember the person on the other side once carried you when you couldn't walk. I didn't stay for him alone. I stayed for the girl I was when I said I do, for the children we raised, for the woman I still want to become. One who can turn pain into mercy instead of bitterness. If you're watching this and your marriage is cracked right now, breathe. You don't have to decide forever today. Just decide the next right thing. One day, one choice, one honest conversation at a time. And if you're the one who did the breaking, fall on your knees, do the work, and mean it. Grace is real, but it's never cheap. That's all I know. Tell me, darling, if it was you holding that phone that night, would you have opened the door to, or would you have locked it forever? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And until next time, keep your heart soft and your spine strong. I love why single quotes. I'll see you soon.